Hello, in this video I want to talk about something really specific. There are going to be days when you're wondering what the hell is going on. So I want to talk about where you are with your healing, understanding your next steps and what they are, and how to get to where you want to be. But also understanding that nobody cares about you. Bit harsh? Yeah, sorry. I want to make this one really real. And I want to share with you two very important questions to ask yourself at each stage of the process. Hello and welcome to the Divorce Sanctuary. My name is Elizabeth Goddard, author of Finding Lily and The A to Z of Emotional Abuse. On this channel I talk about healing from emotional abuse and dealing or even divorcing both emotionally and physically from the abuser. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. Understanding the process or the divorce process is helpful, but understanding where you are on the journey and what to expect is crucial. I want you to understand that the divorce process was not set up for you. Nobody is going to care about who the abuser is and what they've done to you. They care more about ticking boxes. And if you've submitted the correct forms and signed in the right places with the right colour ink. When you think about the process, I really want you to think about it as a box ticking exercise, and that you and your emotions don't come into this. What happened to you was awful, but when it comes to completing the forms, there isn't a box for that. They might have coerced you out of your money, your finances, you might have financed them and projects, or you might have paid off debts, or you might have supported them whilst they paid off their debts. There isn't a box for that. Narcissistic behaviour isn't on the form either. And I want you to remember they will have played the victim, so their legal team will arrive to the table believing you are the manipulative one. And they will become the enablers, possibly allowing the abuser to abuse you further. The divorce process is the perfect arena for the abuser to get more supply. Not only from the process itself and from you if you're going to react to them, but from the people around them as well. And they may even actively encourage it, believing that justice is being served for the awful things that you did to the abuser, not realising that they are being played themselves. And they are like all the other victims the abuser discards along the way. When the paperwork gets to the court system, it's assumed that both parties have discussed and negotiated. It's more of a stamping process from this point. An eye will be cast over the paperwork and it will be placed on a pile that says agreed or another one that says rejected. It's hoped that you will physically be kept out of the courtroom and not sit in front of a judge. But this process does involve someone who loves to create drama, so anything can happen. An awful thing about this process is that nobody cares about anything that happened to you. Unless it fits in a box and that box can have a tick against it or put in it. It's really harsh, but it is true. Your legal team will have a set way of dealing with a divorce. They have a process. It's been tried and tested over months and years, even decades. And what you've experienced then might not come into their process. So it's really down to you to make sure that you have a duty of care towards yourself and create your own tick boxes. I will list a few things that I think are important, but please add your own and delete the ones that aren't appropriate to you. So my first one would be, are you emotionally divorced from them? Yes or no? Remember that this relationship wasn't kind, caring, or even sane. And I talk a lot about healing and breaking the trauma bond. So one of the threads to the bond, one of the tendrils, is remembering the role they played at the beginning, that mask that they put on, the character that they created. There could be moments during the divorce process where you slip back into remembering who you thought they were, not who they really are. Perhaps you don't know or fully understand who they are. You might have so many questions, and part of breaking the bond is divorcing emotionally. So one quick way to snap out of that thought process is to ground yourself really quickly before you get trapped in that emotional spiral and get sucked into a vortex of grief and emotion. And please don't get me wrong, you do need to grieve, and you need to grieve who you believe they were, grieve the relationship, grieve the death of that part of you, and for your fake future, which you might still be trapped in, or trying to recreate it on your own. I will put a link to ways to ground in the description box below. You will need to heal the wounds, and this is really important. It will help you divorce emotionally, so you will feel nothing towards them, and when they play their silly games, it does nothing, and there is no trigger. Their immature character and the sense of entitlement will pop out in negotiations, but they might be able to hide that behind their victim mask that they have put in place. Keep reminding yourself of your worth and that the negotiation has already taken place, and they made the decision of what you were entitled to and what you are worth to them now versus what they can get away with if it is you that's in the worst financial position. However, if you're in a better one, that entitlement will be negotiating a better deal in their favour. And remind yourself of their games, which will include triggering you for a reaction. Remind yourself of the walking on eggshells that took place. And if you were fortunate enough to experience any form of peace and tranquility from not being around them, remind yourself of that. Remind yourself of the ways your life is better without them. And if your trauma bond tugs or hurts in any way, understand where this is coming from. Keep reminding yourself of the immature child that was running this relationship. Breathe and ground if you're being drawn back into those emotions where they led with their damaged child and you want to rush to help them. And this includes with the negotiations. Nothing about this process is fair, and they will play games with you and anyone in the process. They will play the victim. Protect yourself as much as you can. You might be angry and you might behave totally out of character. You might have done this during the relationship. Remember, they manipulated you from the moment you met. They know how to get a reaction from you. They will use the information they have on you to manipulate the process, and they will have set the scene for their friends and family. You have been assigned a character that is evil, and their manipulation will be to bring out that part of you, to prove that they are right. They love playing these games. They love creating drama, which they actually claim to hate, to keep your focus on you, what you want from this divorce. Stay in your body and do not allow them to trigger you or your emotions. Whatever the reason or the reaction they are hoping for, the reaction is to prove how much power they have over you. They want to see you in pain, and they want to manipulate you. It is purely for their own satisfaction, and the louder, angrier, or messier reaction, the better. So have you recovered from them physically? Yes or no? Emotional abuse affects us on so many different levels, and it isn't uncommon for people coming out of this type of relationship to experience complex post-traumatic stress disorder or adrenal fatigue. Perhaps both. You unwittingly and unwillingly entered into a war zone. Your focus was on protecting yourself from dying, and your body might be showing signs of stress. You might jump at the slightest sound or need to sleep with the light on. I found I was experiencing nightmares, something that I had never done before. You may need to be disciplined in this area. Your life was consumed by them, by the abuser. You made sure their needs were met over anyone else's. You likely spent your life walking on eggshells, ensuring that everything you did or said wasn't to upset them or trigger a rage, or managing situations around them so that that didn't happen. I want you to be honest with yourself. How has this affected you physically? I remember looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back at me. Think about this process as you would a boxer preparing for a fight. You need to get physically fit. Have you recovered from them mentally? Yes or no? And yes, this is different from emotionally. Your cognitive function might be reduced through the trauma that you've experienced. The brain is such an amazing thing. You knew on some level what you were experiencing was harmful, and the brain can shrink and protect itself from further damage. In a similar way to what you can do emotionally and physically, consider what's happening to you mentally. Are you still being triggered? Are you experiencing flashbacks? Do you go into fight fly in certain situations? Have you recovered from them spiritually? Yes or no? You might be questioning everything about your life or just life in general. The abuse that took place creates confusion, not knowing what is real and what is not real. Your perception of reality was changed. You might still be believing what they told you was the truth. Or you're questioning everything and everyone. And when you start to understand what happened, you start to question everything again on a deeper level. If you've experienced any form of emotional abuse, it is likely this isn't the first time it's happened. On some level, it wasn't unfamiliar. Have you recovered from them financially? Yes or no? One of the quickest ways for an abuser to control you is financially. It stops you walking away and abandoning them. And they also have this weird obsession with money. That was my experience. You might have come out of this relationship broke as well as broken. And they have so many excuses why they can't contribute towards the rent or the mortgage or the bills. They have their own bills to pay. They need their money for something else. And yet they're so generous in certain areas or towards others. What I would like you to do is think about the times that they were generous and then the times that they didn't have money to pay, forcing you to use your money. And you walk away with nothing or huge debts. They, on the other hand, move on to a new life, debt-free, and in a far better financial position than you. Where are you in each area of your life? When you are looking at the financial area, ask yourself if there are any assets to split. Have they hidden any money? And is it a viable cost considering appointing a forensic accountant? The divorce process wasn't designed with you in mind. Start asking questions about yourself and your protection. Create a duty of self-care. You could even write out your own mantra or a personal statement that reminds you of the outcome that you want, and ask it at each level and see if it fits with that. And you could use these 2 questions in every area. What is the cost of doing it? And then, what is the cost of not doing it? They won't like it if you create boundaries, and they don't want you to get legal support because they are not in control. They may tell you that you don't need a solicitor or a lawyer, and this is to protect them. They may suggest it is because they're a waste of money or a money pit, or they're only after your money. So the question is, what is the cost of doing it? And what is the cost of not doing it? Remember to change everything they say from you or they to I. And remember to create and stick to your boundaries. No contact or grey rock. Get everything in writing. No phone calls, just text messages, or ideally via email. Create a new email address purely for the divorce process. And if you can, have the contact just between the legal teams. Anything said to you about the divorce is closed down. I can't discuss this. No debate, just no. Remind yourself of the messes that you were constantly clearing up for them. Remember the drama they caused wherever they went, the demands they made on you and others. Remember the life you led and the lies you told for them to cover their back. Remember how you pretended everything was okay when every day you were dying inside. How you justified their behaviour and made excuses for them. Remind yourself of the boundaries they crushed of yours and of other people's. And remind yourself how you did see the red flags, but then you bought into their victim story. How you lost yourself in them and the relationship. And you probably gave up a lot of your dreams and goals to satisfy them. Write out your story and have it written somewhere that you can refer back to if you need it. But do it in a business-like way, like in bullet points. There's no emotion. You are healing these wounds and you're stepping into your power. And at each stage, ask, what is the cost of doing it? And then ask, what is the cost of not doing it? Check in with yourself when something or someone hurts you or you get a reaction to something that has been said or is happening. You need to break the trauma bond. This might be one thread at a time. Keep feeling into your body. Get out of your mind, which was programmed to trick you not to listen to your gut. It was tricked to turn it off and to turn to others for approval or what they want you to do for them. If you're trying to contact the abuser or stay in contact with them, ask yourself why, and ask, what is the cost of doing it? And then what is the cost of not doing it? If you are being hurt, reacting to anything that is being said, turn inwards and ask what it is that's hurting. Love shouldn't hurt. Love shouldn't be conditional. The divorce process was written for the more emotionally healthy person. They divorce, but they will want to make sure the process is relatively fair. Emotionally unhealthy people don't do that. For your sanity, start your healing journey. Divorce from them emotionally first. Get practical and create a list. Understand the process and what comes next and what your future is going to look like. What do you want it to look like? And then ask at each stage, what's the cost of doing it and what's the cost of not doing it? Are you instigating the divorce or are they? My observation around this is that if you're instigating the divorce, that they will hold back, they'll sit on paperwork, they won't respond to correspondence. However, if they start the proceedings, it might be that they've spotted that you're broken and weak and they believe you're in a position that they can manipulate you and push everything through. When you start to break the trauma bonds and wake up a little bit, it's either too late or the divorce is over. So what is the cost of doing it and what is the cost of not doing it? Do you know everything you need to know about the timescales and how the process works? Have you sat down and thought out how this is going to work for you? And what's the cost of doing that? And what's the cost of not doing it? Do you have a list of negotiable and non-negotiable items? Again, what's the cost of sitting down and writing that out? And what's the cost of not doing it? Do you know what's important to you? Do you more importantly know what is important to the emotional abuser? I'm going to put a link to my workbook, Turn Broke and Broken into Your Superpower, below in the description box. And there's a form at the back that can help you look at your negotiation tools. How are you feeling about this process? Be honest with yourself. Have you a mixture of emotions? Relief, anger, hate, love, fear? Acknowledge them all. You might be scared, you might feel overwhelmed. You might be confused. Take some time to understand the process. What forms need to be completed? You might have handed it over to someone else, like a legal team, but you also need to know how this process works, and you need to make sure that they are working for you. They have a duty of care. Remember, you were a project to the emotional abuser. They know how to trigger you. They did this when you were married. This process isn't going to stop them now. And they can do it from the safety of their legal team, who then become their enablers. A loaded letter or email designed to trigger you, and they sit back with their popcorn and watch the fireworks. Even if they don't see your reaction, they get supply from imagining it. Understand where you are emotionally. This will help you understand why you're reacting. Understand the legal process, and it will help you stay in control and out of overwhelm. Understand your trauma bond, and that will help you heal and create a plan. Understand what you want. That will help you with your negotiations. And understanding who they are will help you negotiate. Trust your intuition. What is it telling you? Each letter and email has the potential for information to be hidden inside it. What you don't comment on will be taken as an agreement. Remember, the triggers are there to distract you. What else is going on while you're reacting to some of their comments? You are in a process that doesn't cater for your needs. So create your own boxes and start ticking them off. And keep asking yourself, what is the cost of doing it? And then what is the cost of not doing it? I hope you found this useful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to find out more about working with me, I'll put the links below in the description box, along with the links to both my books, Finding Lily and The A to Z of Emotional Abuse. I'll also put the links to both my free workbooks, Self-Care is Vital and Turn Broken into Your Superpower. Sending you loads and loads and loads of love.